Welcome, viewers and listeners, to the Health Revolution, the program that shows you how to have a life of vibrant well-being. In a world full of noisy health trends, we bring you clarity. In a sea of fads, we reveal the science-backed strategies that truly work. We explore physical strength, emotional resilience, and mental mastery. These are the keys to an enriched life. Join us for inspiring interviews with champions who conquered life's health challenges, fueling your journey. Are you ready to unlock your potential? To live with vitality and purpose? Then join the Health Revolution. I'm your host, Adriana Morrison, health and fitness expert, speaker, and a mom who understands. Let's embark on this transformative quest. Together, we're about to change the game, starting now.
The information provided in this show is intended for educational and entertainment purposes only. Viewers should use their own discretion and consult with a healthcare professional for personalized guidance and recommendations. Welcome, everybody. You are watching the Health Revolution. I'm your host, Adriana Morrison, and we are delighted to have you here today. We are talking all things emotional mastery, that physical resilience, and all things that encompass what it means to have an optimal life. And one of the things that we've noticed as we move through life is that how we navigate through our workspace, the roles that we play, the things that we do that help us in our line of work. What do we do if that's toxic? What happens if we are in a toxic work environment? How do we foster a work environment that promotes that healthy cohesiveness and that connection? Today's guest is someone who is very skilled in connecting and discussing and going over what it means to have a positive work environment and all that implies. We're going to get into that. First, take a look at this. Meet Ben Biddick, a dedicated advocate for transformative leadership and creating healthy, non-toxic work environments. Ben's life mission has always been shaped by an unwavering commitment to alleviating suffering and empowering individuals. From the front lines as a combat medic in Iraq to guiding organizations in civilian life, he consistently fosters spaces where people can thrive. Throughout his diverse career spanning military, correctional, and civilian settings, Ben has honed his skills in crisis intervention, hostage negotiations, and emergency management. His deep understanding of trauma, stress, and conflict resolution fuels his passion for developing workspaces that prioritize psychological safety and employee well-being. Today, we will explore how we foster a healthy work environment which impacts having an optimal life. Ben Biddick, welcome. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you, Adriana. It's such a pleasure to be here, to have met you recently, and to hear and witness all the success you're experiencing at the Health Revolution TV show. Congrats to you.
Yes, I appreciate you being here. And this is an important topic. So I knew that you were bringing value to the table and getting right into it. What led you to get granular with creating a non-toxic work environment? Where did all this start?
Sure. So when I was young, I learned very quickly that life is, there's no guarantees in life, I should say, that we are here for an undetermined amount of time. And we have an opportunity to make that count. And the way that we impact the world is largely, a majority of that is how we interact with other people. So by focusing on human interactions between people and understanding how people work, that's how I really focused on seeking to create interactions that were healthy, to create relationships that are strong, to create outcomes and productivity and fulfillment in our work in a variety of different ways. So as I progressed, I was interested in everything. So it was very difficult to choose one career path. There was none that collectively solved my hunger for knowledge and experience in one trajectory. So I basically decided, well, I'm going to serve others, and that will hopefully be my guide through life to create this kaleidoscope of living where I can have the experiences that are fulfilling for me. I can pay my bills, and then I can also create tremendous impact in this world. So I started to do anything and everything I found interesting, whether that was after 9/11, I wanted to prevent future terror attacks. I wanted to not have any repeats of the horrific events of 9/11. So I volunteered. I was a combat medic. I joined, I served, and from there, the medical focus of things, I served in correctional environments and civilian environments, combat support hospitals, medical clinics, civilian hospitals, all sorts of environments, mental health clinics, inpatient psychiatric units. I just took in anything and everything. And then also highly engaged in all these interactions I was having with people when they were stressed, whether it was people in healthcare, whether it was patients. I became very interested in all the ways that people are damaged and hurt and destroyed, and how ways people are healed and brought into fullness and recover from severe injuries, whether psychological or physical. And those experiences took me into various prison settings or jail settings, rendering medical care to people. And understanding the psychological toll that it takes of being incarcerated, the systems and how they worked, and how they did their work, and the challenges that exist in all of these systems. And they're clearly, as we know from a lot of the turmoil and resistance to a lot of our systems, is people want better. People want experiences that are truly rehabilitative. People want healthcare that is that has equity to it, and that disparities are met, and that they're affordable. And so I just kind of made my way through all of this, and studied and had conversations with people who had been harmed in all sorts of different ways. And then I became very interested in de-escalating conflict and intervening in crisis situations. So people in crisis, preventing awful things that we see in the headlines each day. During COVID, I spent the majority of that time doing crisis intervention and intervening in those ways. So in all those ways, then I began to have an understanding of, okay, now I have enough of these experiences where I think I can contribute in ways that are meaningful. And so I just started to do that. And we'll talk about some of those things at length here today.
So I have a question. So question
Yep.
for you. You brought up and for all that you do and that you've done, clearly you've been in a place of servitude, and that's extremely remarkable. What are some of the what are some of the elements that hindered a cohesive workplace? And when I say this, I mean not just the teamwork that goes into helping to save lives, but also in maybe more settings where it's just more teamwork, where there is a mission, not necessarily life or death.
Sure. So I like I like the question here, and I like that you've addressed it. There's a spectrum of things here where it's a much different environment where lives are not at risk. Those types of environments require a completely different response, because we're dealing with, as so many of your guests have shared so generously and with such expertise about the differences of being well in a space where there isn't a threat, and the transition that the human race is going through right now, where for how many eons and hundreds of thousands of years it was about survival. Right, and only in the last 100 years or so, or around that time frame, have we experienced such resource and such wealth and such an experience where we don't, on a given day, have to necessarily focus on the threats to our safety. So we can have more time to be in the parasympathetic part of our nervous system, which is in rest and digest, or in that relaxation space where we have a lot of cognition, right? And then we have all the rapid technological advancements where those advancements in technology are also requiring a cognitive response. So the part of our nervous system that is the brain center there, where we are working in cognitive systems, where the information overload that we're experiencing always on, we have social media, we have emails, we have all the media that we're taking in as stimulus. Now we're in a much more cognitive process where we're not necessarily having to fend for our food, but we're in a place where we are feeling safe, and that those responses, as far as team cohesion, as far as team differences, as far as conflict, are much different spaces. And the thing that's very interesting, as teams build in a place where we're not necessarily focused on survival or having to endure violence or having to do those tremendous, awful situations of high intensity and being in our sympathetic nervous system, hypervigilance and intensity. In all of these different arenas, it requires a different approach. And what I really, really like is going into whatever business or it is, whether it's a nonprofit, whether it's a healthcare, whether it's teachers, whether it's dealing with the stresses of COVID in educational environments, whatever the environment is, it is an exciting opportunity to meet with people where they're at, to create that feeling of safety, to ensure that team members have a level of trust so that they're not afraid to be vulnerable, authentic, and open, and then to see that cohesion start to happen when trust and safety merge, and then the outcomes become tremendous. And that has never been more vital than now in the Great Resignation, when the workers have the options, and they'll take a pay cut to get to a place where they're respected. They'll take $5 less an hour or $20,000 less a year to be in a space where people are healthy.
Are you noticing that that's the feedback that you're coming across? That the response is that many people are just putting more value in that I'm not just gonna stay in the ringer, and there is a threshold and there is a line in the sand that's drawn. What are some uncommon situations, both in the setting where lives are at stake, and then just the much more commonplace, the white collar, even blue collar, just getting the company's mission
Sure.
taken care of and accomplished?
Great question. The commonalities between somebody where you're looking at a highly threatening environment, that you're dealing with life threats, and you're dealing with split second decisions and things of that nature, share with an environment where it's not that intense, where people have the moment to breathe, where it's a much more interactive space where we're sharing our thoughts, where we're sharing work, where we are communicating with one another and trying to get lists of things done. The common ground in these spaces is we want to do meaningful work. We want to have impacts with other human beings and connection with other human beings to create outcomes we couldn't do on our own. So being a part of a bigger picture, whether that's stopping awful acts of violence from happening on a battlefield or in an urban environment, or whether that's a nonprofit who is members of a nonprofit who are working together to raise awareness on a certain issue or relieve suffering in their community in a very real way. Both of those environments, it draws out the best from people. It's just different. And what it asks is, how can I do meaningful work? How can I work with amazing people who inspire me to be better and challenge me with a no threat accountability, where there's no agenda there, where a leader or a team in the organization are not trying to sabotage or posture or get more credit than the others in the agency, where it is a situation where the only agenda is to fulfill the workers' sense of value and sense of health and their wellness as they do something great and as they achieve a noble mission. So those are some of the common grounds that I've seen in my work with a variety of different leadership teams and executives.
So that seems like the end goal, and I'll just get right to it. I once heard a statement that says there's no such thing as bad jobs, just bad bosses. How much is from the top trickling downhill? What element does that play, and how much of a reality is that in the grand picture of having a line of work and trying to do your job?
Yeah, it can't be understated. It can't be understated that an organization's culture comes from the top, the very top. Who is the person who ultimately signs the checks, who makes the decisions, who is the guide forward, who, when a question is posed, it's a yes or a no or a wait. It's from the very top, and it's as important what's being communicated as what isn't being communicated. And the level of accountability there of what is the leadership going to tolerate. And what we're seeing, so many people who come to work wanting to do something noble, wanting to do something heroic, wanting to do something important and meaningful. When people come to work, they're hungry for leadership that's in place, that recognizes the stresses they're facing, that recognizes the challenges that they're facing, and has their fingers on the pulse of what's happening at every level in that organization. It's no longer okay to just hide in the desk at the top of in the penthouse of the organization. It's no longer tolerable. It's no longer the challenges are way too intense for leadership to be disjointed, detached to the point where they don't even understand what's happening in the trenches of the organization. People want better.
So question, which industry has had the biggest reputation of bosses being tone deaf?
Well, what I'm kind of seeing is that we're seeing leadership failures across the board, as we can see by the amount of animosity and the amount of anger, the amount of frustration that we're seeing in people and in reaction to our systems and to businesses. And the beautiful thing that I find to be extremely exciting is that the internet has given a voice to everyone. So it can be articulated if people are engaging in behaviors that are toxic, if people are doing things or allowing things to happen at their organization that are not healthy and even potentially retaliatory or illegal or extremely toxic to the point where it's illegal. It gets addressed and it gets brought to the public's attention. All it takes is a person with a smart device to voice what they have to say, and so even all the frustration with government or frustrations with oversight that is supposed to be in place to give accountability to high-level leaders or organizations that are designed and intended to serve, if people are not getting a noble and healthy response from that organization, it's going to come up. And so that's exciting for me because it makes organizations have to be transparent. They have to invest in nobility in what they do. They have to have transparency. They have to have accountability in a healthy way. We can't just hide in, I'm the boss, I make the rules, I'm in charge, and you have to do what I say. And if you don't, I'll retaliate against you, discriminate against you, or take away vital healthcare benefits that are going to meet the needs of you and the person that you're providing care for in your off time. Like it is a calling out of people in authority, power, and leadership to have character and to have compassion and not just to have that drive for success, but to have nobility, sustainability, and responsibility along the way. So I'm excited for the changes that are happening. It's a little bit concerning, a lot of the things that we're seeing, but I think it's much better to have some of the turmoil and upset and change that's happening, to have these dialogues start to jump off and pop off and be engaged in, than to have people suffering in silence with no voice at all.
And we're going to continue the conversation. First, we are going to take a commercial break. Don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back after this.
Welcome to today's Fit Bite. We're exploring a hot health topic for women in 2024, hormone health and balance. As women, our hormones play a crucial role in our overall well-being, impacting everything from our mood to our metabolism. So first tip, prioritize sleep. Quality sleep is essential for hormone regulation, so aim for 7 to 9 hours per night to support your body's natural rhythms. Next, focus on a balanced food intake. Incorporate a variety of nutrient-rich foods, including healthy fats, lean proteins, and plenty of fruits and vegetables. Now, these provide the building blocks for hormone production and balance. Exercise is also key. I'm going to tell you that. Regular physical activity helps regulate hormones like insulin and cortisol. Mix in strength training, cardio, and stress-reducing activities like yoga or meditation. Lastly, consider consulting a healthcare professional for personalized advice. Hormone health is complex, and what works for one person may not work for another. So remember, hormone health is valuable and vital to your overall wellness. By taking proactive steps, you can support your body's natural balance and thrive in 2024 and beyond. Stay tuned for more Fit Bites.
We can take our own health into our own hands. Okay, so we'll kind of expand on that. So I take a lot of vitamins every day. Long before I started this business, my wife has had me taking my vitamin C, my B complexes, amino acids every single solitary day, and I still do, even though I still do IVs as well. But when you take vitamins orally, you get 15 to 20% of them. Some people get less because they have autoimmune issues. Some people have a lot of inflammation issues, whatever the case may be, so they don't get the absorption that they need to be getting. So they don't get their immune system built up. Doing the mobile IVs, I'm able to take your immune system, I'm able to naturally boost it.
Welcome back to the Health Revolution. My guest today is Ben Biddick. He is a leadership consultant. He has worked in countless settings in helping to promote and foster a positive work environment, one that is not toxic, one that can be from the corporate space all the way through those in which critical care is administered. Life and death is hanging in the balance. And Ben, before the break, we were talking about being able to identify getting to the root of the problem that the leadership has of organizations in general, that it starts with them. So I'm curious about specific tactics that leadership roles can do to start addressing work toxicity if they've just discovered and recognized that it's part of their environment. What are the specific steps that are crucial for organizations to really embrace so they can get to the heart of the problem?
Yes, I love this. This is a topic that just lights me up because this is where I start to get very excited, because transformative change, it doesn't take a ton of time. You can get some pretty significant results pretty quickly, especially if the organization is pretty unhealthy. That starts with the hunger from the executive staff. So if there's anyone watching who is they are a business leader or they're a leader of a team, if they want to stand out, they don't have to necessarily be in the C-suite of an organization, the executives. They don't have to have the highest title in there. They can, but if this is also a leader in an organization and they want to take better care of their team, this is also for them. Basically, it starts with that hunger and recognizing that something isn't right. It's not okay. People are leaving. You're having trouble filling your slots when it comes to employee positions. You can't retain staff. You have people leaving in droves, or they're leaving in ways where they're clearly not satisfied, clearly frustrated, or you can't draw people to the ranks of where you're trying to do your work. So if you can't get people in there, if people are upset, you're having conflict among staff, and you're having that type of environment where you wake up in the morning and you don't want to go to work because you feel sick inside, or you feel nervous, or you feel stressed that I have to go deal with insurmountable challenges that I don't have the resources or the support to address. That awful no person's land of the mid-level manager, where they see the struggle of the staff that they're trying to empower. They're seeing what their staff are going through, like healthcare staff during COVID. They are literally like staying on, doing all these tremendous shifts. They're seeing people overwhelmed. They're seeing people pass away, and being that mid-level manager that wants to intervene, but then brings it up to the executive staff who just shut them down and say, deal with it. These are these types of interactions where negative interactions are happening, and people want better, and we need better for the staff. So if you are in any position of leadership, no matter where you're at, we can work on ways to create health for both you as the leader, your leadership team, and the staff who are doing the tremendous work and are in the trenches, who are up to their ears in stressors and challenges. And
so I have
we
a question.
can,
I have a question for you. So, how do you address leadership? So I'm curious, because we've all had experiences with bad bosses and people who don't understand and that are in power positions. So
Yep.
when you go in and you
Yep.
are addressing and
Yep.
you are calling a spade, what's your tactics in stepping forward and getting honest with the higher ups?
Sure. And to a certain degree, there are times where you just can't do it. They're not ready, and they're not going to do anything, and they don't care. And you have to be careful not to waste your time. Right. But the key thing is who's bringing you into that organization and why. So the key is, if someone's reaching out to you, they're realizing something is wrong there. That's something that there is awareness of a leader in that organization that says, I want better. And I don't know what it is necessarily or how to do it, but that's why I'm calling you to come in and do it. So it's the why behind it, right? We get right in there and say, what's concerning to you? Well, it's concerning to me that I can't fill the slots of my organization. I can't fill shifts, and I have people screaming at each other in the parking lot, arguing over who's going to take the next shift, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the beginning of that is someone recognizing there's a problem. And then there's a conversation to say, are you willing to make changes to address these problems? And are you willing to change? Are you willing to implement that change? No matter how small or how big, are you ready to solve the problem? Or is this just to waste both of our time? Because if you just tell your staff you need to practice self-care, you need to take a bath, you need to go get a massage every now and then, without changing the system that's in place, that everybody knows in that organization that that's not really what self-care is, and it's not fair to them. So they're going to resist.
So, question, how much of a role does HR play? Now, is HR part of the problem, or are they, for what you've seen, I'm not saying that all HR is an issue, but in the cases where HR is just not, the vision of them helping in that role is not happening, what's the most effective way to address that, since they're close to the source?
Exactly. They're extremely close to the source. And that relationship between HR and the executive staff is vital to understand. Now, if HR is basically the executive's police, where they're not giving people a fair shake, where they're just clearly taking statements from people and investigating these allegations and things like that just to check it off the box, and then not taking it seriously because the executive staff are not taking it seriously, then and because they're basically the police of the executive, that are just flexing on people, and it's their problem. Now this is exciting. So anybody listening who has experienced that knows how awful that feeling is, knows how awful that is. But there is hope. I just want to say, and to anybody listening to this who knows that having a good HR person is dependent on having somebody whose executive leadership is giving them the freedom and the transparency to say, if there is anything wrong here, I want to know about it so we can change it, because I want better for this organization. And the leaders who do that care about their clients and their customers. They care about the people walking through the door. They realize that organizations are people, right? There's no organization that is personless, right? Organizations consist of people. So if we're if we're treating our people well in an organization and they are experiencing the 8 dimensions of wellness, they're intellectually stimulated, they are physically fit, they are or investing in physical fitness to the degree that they're able, their environment is one of health, that they're surrounded by great people, great food, great interactions, and healthy environments where there's no toxins around harming their physical body, or psychological toxins of people whispering and suspicion and fear tactics, and so did you hear about who got fired, and rumor mill and things like that. If we create a space where these people are thriving, guess what? If you're an executive who's investing in that in your organization, guess where all the people who've had those negative experiences with HR and toxic bosses, guess where they want to work? They want to work for you. And so and this is a great thing where I love incorporating social media into my services, where we do some executive coaching, we do some change management, we do some stress management. We invest in the 8 dimensions of wellness for the staff, first the leadership, all the way down to the staff. So you're creating that dynamic of health in the culture of your organization, where people are valued, where they're.
I want to get in a question. I want to jump in here. I know you got a lot, but I want to make sure that we cover some of the components where the scene is set, a different scene. Can you share specific tactics to start unpacking, whether it's a type of a conversation that that those in the workspace, whether employee or executive, can have, or the type of review or dialogue that can start? So I'm curious about the specific calls to action that can bang a Yui in all of this.
Yes. So I love having these tough conversations, because it's a gateway into flourishing. And it's something where sometimes the conversation happens one day and it plants a seed, and 6 months later they recognize it, or they know it right then and there, and they're ready to act and they're ready to make change, or whether it's resistance, and then they watch their staff walk away, and then they call back later and they want to, okay, I'm acknowledging. So what it comes down to is an acceptance that maybe they're wrong. If there's a problem in an organization,
accountability. So taking ownership
of saying,
hey, I'm part of the problem. How hard is that? How hard have you seen these days in 2024 executives do that, or maybe how surprising has that been for executives to do that?
That's the beautiful thing is in an environment where if you show vulnerability, right? We know the challenges that come from this, where if you go into a space where you're able to be open, where you're able to express dissent, where you're able to say to a leader, to someone in charge of you and your position and your healthcare benefits and your future and your family's well-being and the paycheck that feeds your family. If you are in a space where you're able to say to that person above you, I disagree with what's happening here. And if that person does not retaliate against you, but instead takes that in and says, I'm going to think about that. Thank you for bringing that up. Thank you. And maybe it's just that they need to clarify what they're communicating. First of all, maybe it's that they just, maybe it's something that's not understood. But to have that type of open dialogue where you can clarify communication, or this was the why behind it. I want you to understand. I know it was not pleasing at this point, and we'll probably have to deal with some problems for the next 3 to 6 months. But we're working on it, and this is the plan. Those types of conversations where they have a voice, where people on the lower end of things, where they're speaking to an authority and they say, they feel free enough to have a conversation to say, these are my concerns. This is what's upsetting to me. And this is why I'm upset, because it gets in the way of client care or client success. It gets in the way of my team being valued. It seems like a slight. It seems like an insult, because these people have worked for so-and-so. They've done all these things. They're well-meaning. They're well-intended. And this is the response. It's not congruent with their health. It's not congruent with us achieving amazing things. Can you explain why, please? Having these types of interactions and having a leader who's able to communicate with transparency, who's able to explain the why behind certain things that may be a challenge for others in the organization. If we can have these interactions where we can literally say, hey, I'm frustrated with you. I don't know what you were thinking with regard to this and this and this. We can have those respectful confrontations, or we can have that conflict when we understand that, first of all, every human relationship that has ever existed, everyone has had some element of conflict in it, right? Whether it's kids on a playground, whether it's a work thing, a marriage. And once we acknowledge.
No, I know you were talking about, I want to make sure we hold space for your book as well. So I love the fact that you're taught that the communication is paramount, and then the taking ownership is huge. I'm going to see if we can, let's talk about the book that you co-authored. Talk a little bit about this. Get Up, The Art of Perseverance, Adam Greenberg with you, and add a little bit of context to the backings, to the backstory of this before we go to our next break.
Sure. So this is a book I co-wrote. Adam Greenberg, he is the gentleman there on the bottom of the cover of the book in the Chicago Cubs uniform. You can see Greenberg on his shoulders there. He is holding his head because this is the first pitch of his Major League Baseball career, and it hit him on the back of the head under the helmet, so directly on the head. 92-mile-an-hour fastball. It was the first pitch of his Major League career. He had just stepped into the batter's box for the first time and immediately received a traumatic brain injury, right? So it takes years and years and years. This was the pinnacle of everything he had worked for the first duration of his life. And we describe in the book his level of determination and work ethic and how much he invested in creating that moment where he stepped into the batter's box. Dusty Baker gave him the nod and said, "Kid, you're going to pinch hit. Let's go." And he went up to the batter's box, and on the first, basically the culmination of his entire athletic career had come to that moment. A height that has only been seen by a few people on this planet who've been able to play Major League Baseball. And in that moment, the height of his achievement came crashing down in a moment. The ball struck him on the head. He thought in this moment that you see there on the cover that his head was actually, that his skull was fractured. He thought that was what it was happening, that he thought he was holding his head together. Inside his brain was saying, "Stay alive, stay alive, stay alive." And in this moment, you'll see that everyone kind of came around him. This is pre-concussion protocol, Major League Baseball. So there was no trainer. He didn't go to the hospital. There was maybe a guy who came out and waved a few fingers in front of him and said, "Where are you?" Basically, he said, "Where are you, kid?" And Adam said, "I'm in the major leagues and I'm not going back." And he did make it back to the major leagues after an odyssey of suffering. That is extremely interesting to read if you want to take it all in. But he did get back to the major leagues, but it's in a very, very unique way. And I would encourage anybody who's looking for a story or a reason to get up when life has literally put you in the dirt after being leveled by a challenge, whether it's a health challenge, a mental health challenge, fiscal challenge, whatever it is, whatever you're dealing with, I would encourage you to learn from some of the lessons that I had the honor of sharing with Adam.
Extremely powerful. We're going to go ahead and take a break. We will be right back. Stay right there. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back after this. Thank you so much for watching The Health Revolution. Our show is growing, and it's all thanks to viewers like you. No matter how you found us, please hit the subscribe button so we can stay connected and continue to deliver amazing content to you.
Hi, I'm Emily, and I live in Colorado with a very active lifestyle where my family and I race horses and rodeo. I'm happy to share an amazing technology that has changed my life. 6 months ago, my friend introduced me to a wearable nanocrystal technology that is activated through phototherapy, or your own body's light. With this technology, this little patch is able to increase the copper GHK peptides in your body, which can reactivate stem cells. The beautiful thing about stem cells is that it goes in your body and fixes whatever's broken. If you would like to experience more energy, better sleep, weight loss, or countless other benefits, click on the QR code below to find the younger, healthier you with this affordable technology that I have seen change hundreds of lives.
And now we want to give special thanks to Biomed Mobile IV for sponsoring the Health Revolution. Biomed Mobile IV is Colorado's top mobile IV therapy service, servicing throughout the state of Colorado. They offer an array of vitamins and above and beyond safety preparation. Biomed Mobile IV, your dedication to health and wellness is exactly what our show is all about, and we thank you for your support. Welcome back to the Health Revolution.
Welcome back, everybody. My guest today is Ben Biddick. He is a leadership consultant. He co-authored the book Get Up, and we are talking about how to foster a positive, a non-toxic work environment that benefits everyone, from leadership all the way down to positions that don't have as much as, I don't want to say as much responsibility, but just have unique roles that are different from the executive roles. And so, Ben, as we went to break, you were talking about some of the different elements that do help to have the turnaround community for those, for organizations, companies, what have you. What has been the one thing that you've seen has been a huge benefit when companies make the choice to invest in energy, maybe the level of cost efficiency that goes into this in their workers, in their employees? What's been the end result, the ROI out of being able to invest from on the inside?
Absolutely. If people in leadership invest time, energy, and resources into the wellness of their staff, into conflict resolution, into mental health concepts, into mindfulness concepts that are demonstrated by the staff, that the culture of the organization embodies from the highest level to the lowest, you start to see a tremendous return on that investment. That the return on that investment is cohesion, is a sense of meaning and purpose, is of people who see their clients as an opportunity to invest in the health of another because the leadership of their organization has invested in them. So they are trained in some of these implicit concepts where they just take them on, that are not necessarily billboard culture where it says, we're heart of compassion and we, all those things. And then when staff go there, they scoff at it because they know that the interior of the organization, that's just a billboard, that's not the truth when somebody walks in the door. Instead, you're having loyalty and fidelity to the organization because they're being treated well, and they don't need a billboard. They are the billboard. They are the person that welcomes someone into the place of business. They welcome them in. They care about what's happening with their client or their staff. Or if something is happening with a customer or a client where they've had a less than satisfying interaction, it is something where they reach out and say, tell me about it. I want to learn about it, and I want to make it right. And that comes from conversations with managers and staff members and executives talking with each other to say, if something is wrong within our organization, we want to make it right. Let's make this better by seizing the opportunity of the conflict, by seizing the opportunity of the dissatisfaction, by saying, this is what it is. And one of the things I learned during crisis and hostage negotiations, it is a way to get people out of that sympathetic nervous system, that angry response, that escalated response, to emotion identify, right? To articulate the emotion that you're witnessing. You sound angry to me and I want to understand why. You probably have a pretty good reason.
So being able to have the right dialogue, being able to decide that I'm going to be big enough to say that I'm going to be transparent, and I'm going to I'm going to try to have a better conversation, even if I'm not used to it. Real quickly, of course, with time being of the essence, I want to talk about the guide that you have, and we're going to bring that up here right now. Talk a little bit about navigating information overload. Can you give a quick synopsis of what this represents and who it's for?
Yes. So if you're a leader of an organization or you're a member of an organization that's dealing with this, chances are you are today, no matter what industry you're in. Right now, 10 million workers in the American workforce have left the workforce, whether by being retired intentionally, that they had led a fulfilling career and left, or they felt like they were getting forced out and decided to leave, or they were so fed up with the way things were going in the workplace that they left intentionally. 10 million people have left the workforce as the baby boomers have aged, and as they've left the workforce, that means 10 million jobs that were being done within the last 5 years are no longer, there's nobody there doing that much work. So everyone else in the workforce, in the organization, is trying to take on that and doing that with less institutional knowledge than the people who had been there for years and years. So we have a lot of new employees taking on new roles and taking on roles that are probably for not just one worker, but probably for more than one. So you have decision fatigue, you have exhaustion, you have reduced focus and attention, you have the back and forth, your cognitive load is so much on your mind. And chances are you're also dealing with family things at home, right? That you're dealing with those challenges. And 1 in 4 applicants in the state that I live in are also home caregivers for whether an aging parent is dealing with dementia or has medical cares related to aging, or someone has a disability at home, or they're caring for their own children in addition to all of that. So all of those things at home are happening. All of these things at work are happening. There is so much to be done and so much information being thrown at us. It can seriously negatively impact our health. So I created this Navigating Information Overload, Empowering Employee Wellness in the Digital Age Guide for anyone who's interested in learning ways that they can have a mindful, healthy response to all of this information, all of these stressors, and so your health doesn't suffer as you're dealing with these challenges.
And quickly, before we go to break, I know that obviously the stress that's in the work environment, the vast majority of the time that so very many people will spend in a given portion of their day, that they take that home with them. And so then stress levels can certainly climb. And then obviously that can have a physiological impact on their adrenal system. And so what is the one, if you can name just the type of one quick verbiage that allows somebody to create the space to say, hey, I'm feeling overwhelmed, and they feel like they can't say that. What is one sentence, an example that they could say to start having that conversation?
Sure. So one thing, and what I would say to them is, first and foremost, life is not about how much you can get done. It's a miracle that you're alive. We need to be able to enjoy that. We need to be able to enjoy the opportunity to be alive and aware of it. And work, there's plenty of work that will be done over your lifetime, but losing your health is not in the cards for somebody who wants to experience that joy of living. You'll be able to make enough money. You will be able to overcome your challenges, but we need to take care of our health first and foremost so that we can enjoy the glory of being alive. And so I would just encourage anybody who's overwhelmed in that moment to just recognize that this life is for living, and that we won't be here forever. Let's prioritize our health, advocate for ourselves, and you may not find it right away, but you will find a space where you find the right people who are there to say, you deserve that and I want that too, and we'll make it real together.
We're going to take a quick commercial break. Stay put. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back after this. back to the Health Revolution. My guest today is Ben Biddick. He's a leadership consultant. He works with organizations in fostering a non-toxic work environment so that all thrive and flourish in all ways possible. Ben, where can viewers find you on the internet and social media?
Well, first, I just want to thank you for having me as a guest on the Health Revolution show. You're doing tremendous work, and I'm so grateful for all you're doing for your audience and the information that you're sharing. It's been an honor to be here. If people want to learn more about me, it's very simple. You can look at benbiddick.com, where you can go to humancapital.vip, and that will get you where you need to go when it comes to who I am, the services I provide. I am here to help you transform the toxicity that you're dealing with, whether you need individual coaching sessions, whether you need to revamp your team cohesion, whatever you can do. I'm confident that we can get somewhere very positive very quickly.
What about social media? Where are you on social media?
All over social media, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. I should be available. Just throw me in that Google search, and we'll find a way to connect, and we'll find a way to create tremendous outcomes together.
Ben, I appreciate your time and energy, and obviously that the work environment is one in which we spend so much time as a society, and it's definitely one in which it needs to be as positive as possible. Thank you so much for sharing this information. Thank you for being here.
Oh, it's my honor to be here. Wishing you the utmost success.
Thank you. And for all of our viewers, of course, you can find us on the internet on our website, thehealthrevolutiontv.com. You can subscribe to our newsletter. You can also send us a message and let us know if there's any show ideas that you would love for us to cover, and we would be excited to cover that for you. On the upper left-hand corner of your screen, you will find a QR code. If that's easier for you to snatch our website, please feel free to do so. And of course, you can always find us on the Achieve TV channel on E360 TV every single Tuesday and Thursday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, right here. Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire, LinkedIn. We see you as well, and all the social media handles. That is all the time that we have. Thank you so much for joining us. Until next time, take care of yourselves. We will see you soon.